Hi, Candy. Good morning. Welcome, and I hope you're excited to talk about real estate because I know I'm always excited. But before we dive in, let me get a little bit of background about you, what your journey has been, and where you are in your commercial real estate career.
Sure. So real estate's kind of been a second career for me. And I spent the first part of my career after receiving a marketing degree in healthcare. I had a healthcare background as well. So it was a logical switch for me, did a lot of medical sales and some pharmaceutical sales. So I had an opportunity to go to like one of the top sales schools in the world with a pharmaceutical company and worked with them for a few years and realized rather quickly that it really wasn't for me. I really was not helping people. And it was just something I wasn't passionate about, but I was really grateful that I had the sales experience and the marketing experience behind me. So luckily I had an opportunity about the time my youngest daughter was going into school full time to reinvent myself. And I got my real estate license and a staging certification. And I started in residential real estate. I did that for about 5 years during a natural gas boom we had here in central Pennsylvania. I did really well for myself. It was a lot of fun, but I found that the inventory of real estate was very low from a residential standpoint. So we had to court some developers. And I really enjoyed that part of finding a chunk of land and, pricing it out and the due diligence portion of the deal. And I also very much enjoyed working with a developer, an experienced investor who knew what they wanted and, were calling all of the shots. There was a lot of less drama. It was very, factual. And I really enjoyed working on the investment side versus working for, first-time home buyers. So I did a lot of working with landlords as well during that period of time to get a sense of what they were looking for and to help them with their grow their portfolio. So I got to a point where I really needed to work more evenings, more 9 to 5 hours, and I wanted to give up the evening work. So my children were just getting older and needed me more at home in the evenings and weekends. So I had an opportunity to work for a developer in State College, which was my dream job at the time. We didn't do as much development as I wanted, but I had the opportunity to help manage their portfolio. And at the time, their portfolio was had a lot of vacancies. So I had an opportunity to work with them to fill that. And they specialized mostly in retail and office. They did a little bit of industrial, but since that time, I've definitely got my feet wet with working in the industrial world as well. In our market in State College, we have to be more generalist. We can't specialize like a lot of the urban markets do because it just won't honestly pay the bills. So it's a good opportunity for us to learn a lot and wear many hats. And I enjoyed it. Every day is a new day for me.
Yeah, great. I mean, I think that we are in a very unique kind of market with being a college town first.
Mhm.
And, I think that's different than a lot of other towns that we see across the US where there are colleges located there, but there are also big cities that kind of support that.
Mhm.
So, with that, what's one of the struggles that you see with bringing in companies or bringing in different types of business opportunities here to State College? That maybe aren't experienced in other cities.
Yeah, we talked about that at your class yesterday, actually. We're a small town. We really are. When you remove the university, we're just a small town in the middle of central PA, like so many other small towns. But what we have that those other small towns don't have is about 47,000 students. I think that was yesterday. I did a quick Google search because every year it just continues growing. And that's the benefit of living in a happy valley. It was coined its name in the Great Depression and it still stands true. It is Happy Valley. We have seen the market slow down over the last few years, especially with COVID and slowly ramped up after COVID, but now we've kind of settled into this state of dealing with inflated construction costs and increased interest rates, which is tough for any market, but it's especially tough on some of these tertiary markets.
Mhm.
Um, So, to answer your question, the biggest issue that we have is that those students, that 47,000 students, most of them do not show up on our census data. So we really have struggled competing with that. And then the students that do show up on our census data are generally the grad students who, make State College their official home and leave their parents and recognize that this is the home base. But at the same time, they just have no household income to contribute to our demographics. So that pulls our data down. And it's tough when I'm going to these national conventions with a lot of brokers that are coming from metropolitan areas, even Philly and Pittsburgh, who know, Pennsylvania, but they just still, it's difficult. Even national brands, they just turn the other cheek because they don't see, even when I explain to them the demographic issue, we just don't have it. We also struggle a little bit with traffic counts. I mean, some of our parts of our market, we have 25 or 30,000 vehicles per day, but at the same time, it doesn't equate to some of the larger metropolitan areas. So we are a smaller tertiary market, but we have this university. So we try to go after brands who either recognize the dilemma that we have and see the disposable income that is here at State College with the university, and then also we try to capture leads who really want to be in a college environment. They recognize that they do really well. That's their target market, that age group. So they're the folks that we try to market. The other dilemma that we have is that a lot of people are willing to drive into State College. Is a little hub for us here in Central PA. You send your kids to school there. You also, go there to do shopping and, enjoy Trader Joe's and pick up those specialty items that you like. So a lot of brands don't recognize when I go back to them and say that Penn State has a study that shows that there's a 45-mile radius of people who commute to work every single day. And they don't understand that that's not 45 minutes just sitting bumper to bumper in your car in Philadelphia. That's a 45-minute drive. That's coming in beyond Lewistown, out beyond Phillipsburg. And like myself, I'm coming in from the east on Route 80. So it's definitely a wake-up call for them. They're expecting 100,000 people within a 1 or 2 mile radius and $100,000 household income. We just can't compete with those figures.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that one of the notable things is to understand what some of these students are paying in rent at some of these newer places, because while their incomes are not counted towards our census data, they're coming from very well-off families who provide them resources, who provide them with disposable income that can be used at some of these stores. So I wonder if there was a way to kind of pull data from rent and kind of back into that, understanding that some of them are paying upwards of $1,600 to $2,000 plus for a single bedroom, and which, you and I talked about is more than our mortgage payment. But,
Right.
I think those brands understanding just how much disposable income those 47,000 students have is powerful. 100%.
Oh, absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see how AI has an impact on our business. I mean, we already have some opportunities where, we're able to capture some cell phone data. So we're not relying on, the traffic counts or the walk scores. We're actually able to see where these cell phones are going and which stores and getting some nice, good graphs of that information. So I think that we're on the cusp of doing that. A lot of brands are utilizing more and more AI. They're using systems that help them in the decision-making process. They're able to utilize the sales of some of their competitors. So we are getting there, definitely. In the last 10 years that I've been in the State College market, I've seen a huge evolution with that. I think that we're just in a slowed economy. So it'll be exciting to see the next few years as the economy picks back up and, more brands are looking to expand, because right now it's tough even for a national brand when they're paying $200 to $300 a square foot to build out a raw space. it's just difficult. So they're being very choosy on where their expansion efforts are. And unfortunately, most of them are still really focusing on the metropolitan areas. And we're a second thought. I think a lot of our prospecting efforts just in even the last 6 months to a year have been check back with us next year. So, we're hopeful. We definitely are that the tide will be changing here in the near future.
Yeah. I think another set of data points that might be interesting to look at is delivery through UPS, FedEx, USPS to all of these specifically student rental high rises. Because understanding just how much online shopping they're doing can then equate to dollars that they would have spent in actual retail storefronts.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Because just was last week at a high rise and I saw the postmaster pull up with their big old
Oh,
truck
yeah.
and they had carts carting all the items, the boxes into the student housing complex. So you're absolutely right.
So many.
That would be interesting. And brands have that ability. They can pull their sales and figure out where those sales are coming from. So there very well may be that kind of data in the future.
Yeah. So I know that, it's definitely a challenging way to fill spaces. I'm just wondering, have you seen a different type of strategy that you are now deploying post-COVID versus maybe what you had when, the world was normal, we didn't have any sort of like issues, but now you kind of have to back into it and kind of look at things a little bit differently?
Oh, sure. We're looking more at prospecting efforts. The leads aren't as numerous as they were pre-COVID in regular life. So my team spends most of their time trying to gather leads through prospecting efforts. Yeah, I mean, and every firm has a different strategy. That's just been my personal strategy. And I think that's Bennett Williams' strategy as a whole. We just invest in a lot of money into being able to do that. Both it's very labor intensive, and a lot of firms aren't capable of doing that because of the labor force that's required, but also the tools that you have to pay for to have the ability to get that information from those brands. So that's where we're at with it. We've had some successes. We get a lot of no's, but that's just part of the business.
Mhm.
And you just got to continue turning over more rocks. And like I said, I've seen an uptick here just recently, also in the market. So that makes me hopeful that in the next 12 months, we'll start seeing some even more improvement.
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit more about your prospecting strategies? Like, how do you go about either identifying potential target tenants, or what kind of strategies are you guys using to try to fill these spaces?
Yeah, sometimes it's very objective data where, our systems spit out a list of users that would be expanding or would be appropriate for that size of space. So, we get that data and we can follow up on that information, but then sometimes it's very subjective. In fact, I told I have a male and a female associates who both work for me. And I'm like, you guys need to work closer to eat with each other, because what one thinks of, the other one doesn't, and vice versa. And I think that's really, really great because they both have differing views and can help each other. Iron sharpens iron there. So, he's really up on all the restaurants and she's really up on more retail. So I think it's the best of both worlds there. So yeah, it's very subjective and objective. It can just be driving down the road and, see something or a concept and say, hey, let's try to figure something out. Like who could we target that does something similar to that?
Yeah, definitely. I know whenever I'm traveling, every time I go past kind of like a strip mall or, a development sector, I'm always looking and seeing what kind of businesses are there, like what's the mix look like, and maybe how could we add that to, something in State College. So I think it's really interesting that, I think getting different perspectives, just like gender differences, age differences, just even like where you're from differences, and then trying to put that all together, because I think we are such a melting pot. We have people from so many different backgrounds and so many different places coming together that there are things that you and I would not think about, but somebody
Exactly.
else would come and it would be a great idea.
Exactly. And
So,
that's why I like having a younger team on my younger agents on my team, is because I'm in the mom stage, and they are really targeting the group of people that is our largest population in state college. So I really rely on them. And it's not one person has more experience than the other. It's really just a knowledge base that we all bring together, and can help each other through the process. So once it gets in your blood, you're right. You look at things differently, just something will give you inspiration. And, I keep a tablet with me every day. And that was one of the things I told one of my new agents is keep a tablet in the car. And as you see things, or you're snapping quick pictures, just to jog your memory, to give you some sort of inspiration. And yeah, there are laws. There are laws where you look at your owner report and you say, oh my goodness, I sent 50 emails out in prospecting and I don't know what else to do. And sometimes it's just like you said, driving to another town, or getting on line and seeing. I mean, we have just simple Google, what's in the next town over, what's in 3 towns over, how can I track them? Because our prospecting efforts aren't just for national brands, it's for any user, really. You can do it in office is a little more complicated. I think industrial is a little more complicated. Retail is real easy to do
mhm.
prospecting on, but I challenge my team to keep a broad mind, and don't say no to a tenant until they say no. Give them the opportunity to say no, and just try to talk to as many people as you possibly can. And once they get out of college and they go through the training and they start feeling more comfortable with the lingo, they enjoy talking to people about what they do. And I find other investors and even other brands, they enjoy talking about what they do too. So it's just an easy conversation, similar to today, you and I just talking about it too. So,
Yeah.
you know, um, yeah, I think you told your students yesterday, network, network, network. Yeah. And network sounds so CLZ or so formal. And I try to remove that, just to say, I've hired you because I like your character. You're a good person. You can talk to people. You're likable.
Mhm.
And it's not necessarily real salesy. It's really just a willingness to help people and to share your knowledge base, and being comfortable with the new language of real estate. And before you know it, you're striking up a conversation at a restaurant that you're taking part in. And next thing you know, they want a second location in state college. And it's as easy as that.
Mhm.
So, just removing that stressor there of feeling like you're a salesperson, and
Yeah.
recognizing that you have value to help and you're willing just to help people. And the worst thing they're going to say is, no, not
Yep.
this, not at this time.
Yeah.
And okay, fine. I'll move on to the next one.
Great. Yeah. And I think that that's such a good point is that, when I say networking, I mean like just put yourself out there to meet new people because you never know how that connection may affect another. And, like you said, if you may be prospecting with one tenant, it might not be a good fit for them, but they may refer you to somebody else who they know is looking
Yeah.
for that kind of space. So you just never know where those connections are going to kind of fall in place.
And that's the fun part of the job. I think you have to be able to be resilient to bounce back from the rejection, but at the same time, you never know who's gonna pick, who's gonna call you. You never know which brand's gonna respond to your email. You never know the person that you talked to 4 years ago is going to pick up the phone and call you and say, hey, you were really helpful
Yeah.
back when I was looking for a space. Sorry it didn't work out with you. Well, I'm in the business to buy now. Would you help me? It's a fun profession to be in. So I would encourage your students to definitely take brokerage into consideration, if they think that they would like to help more people with real estate.
Yeah. So one last question. Tell me about the spaces you have available, maybe some kind of target demographic, some kind of target retail tenant or something so that they can kind of understand what you may be targeting to give them ideas for their projects.
Yeah. Mm. Let's see here. I have a lot of downtown space, which the students are familiar with. So they could easily make some recommendations on space. A lot of that, most of that space is raw space. We've had that surge of new builds with the requirement of retail on the first floor and the second floor is office. Most of the second generation spaces throughout Center County are taken. We have a very low vacancy rate in Center County for retail anyway. So it's really leaving us with this raw space. Part of the reason that it's sitting is because of the inflated construction costs, as we talked about previously, and the increased interest rates. So anybody who gets a business loan is going to be paying a higher rate for that. The landlords aren't as willing to negotiate on the base rent, generally because the expectation is as prices go up for construction, the landlord requirements for delivery go up as well. So they need to justify the additional work that's being requested of them. That's not all the time. There was a recent deal just done in State College. It wasn't my deal, but it was a national brand who paid full price, and they didn't get any tenant improvement allowance or any additional landlord work. So occasionally you do luck upon one of those. But so I think anything that your students would feel could take anywhere from 1,400 square feet up to, I'm going to say 10,000 square feet. I could probably accommodate a 10,000 square foot user. 10 to 13,000 square feet is probably my maximum. Now, because they're raw spaces, it has to be a user who has pretty deep pockets. So it has to be a national brand, or it has to be a regional or a local user who wants to make a pretty big investment into the community. So that would be the only thing I'd caution them on. It's, startup business probably is not the way to go. It's going to have to be a user who probably has multiple locations, or again, it could be a new concept, but it could be someone who has the deep pockets to make it happen. I honestly, I only know of on North Atherton, there's only one other small retail. Well, there's two small retail spaces that are available on North Atherton. That is it. South Atherton has a few others. So, again, it's mostly down to the raw spaces is what we have available and we need to fill. So only time will tell, but I welcome any opportunity that they have to submit. I don't know how you're going to work that, but if we could have a business's name, and if they even had a website, that would be helpful, because I'm sure they'll be putting some on there from back home that maybe we aren't as familiar with. A website would be great. And then, of course, they want to accompany their name. I'd be willing to see if we could try to contact them and do a little prospecting. If we get it to a letter of intent, we'd be happy to incentivize that particular student with a gift card or some time with me and my team.
No, I think that's great. So just like a little plug, I might share this with my network too, so that if there are people who are thinking about trying to come to State College to grow, build their business, or maybe work for a company that's looking for a new location, Kandy, you're with Bennett Williams, and you are happy to kind of walk them through the process of what being here in Happy Valley looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, more, the more heads you put together, the better off you are. So I'm sure there's generally things that my team and I haven't thought about. There may be some no's when we get on the list. I'm sorry, my cat's.
Oh, you're fine.
You don't mind, but I'm sure there's going to be some folks that are submitted that we say, oh yeah, we've already talked to them several times. But then there are going to be definitely some that maybe open our eyes to go, that's a really good idea. Let's reach out and see where it goes. And that's just part of the game, reaching out, seeing where it goes. And then from there, hopefully we can get a letter of intent. We'd love to be able to, provide feedback to your team there in your classes. And hopefully we can get a letter of intent together.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, it would be fun.
Great. I can't wait. They're going to have a couple weeks to get this in. So when they're kind of ready to submit that, let's definitely get back together so that,
Okay.
maybe you can come into the class and kind of hear what they're pitching, what they're trying to envision, and, maybe their rationale behind it, because I'm sure it's a different thought process than yours or mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. Let's do that.
I would say just make sure you have a space, we're meeting the space requirement, and
Mhm.
then we're meeting the financial requirement as well. So, when
Yep.
we call somebody up who doesn't have the financial means to make it work, but I'm excited to see what kind of options they have.
Yeah, me too. This is
All right,
great. All right.
wonderful.
Thank you, Candy. I appreciate it. And we'll
Absolutely.
talk soon.
Thank you so much. Take care.